Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our expert interview. Today I am interviewing Levon Nathan, who is a reward and recognition specialist at Royal HaskoningDHV, who are based in the Netherlands. Levon has a wealth of experience in the rewards and remuneration space. He's currently based in the Netherlands, but has also done extensive work in South Africa. Welcome, Levon.
Thank you.
Levon, I've prepared a few questions just for us to get some familiarity around what some of the current trends in reward and remuneration are. So really my first question is just that. What are, in your view, some of the trends in reward and remuneration that we should be looking out for?
There's two things that immediately jump to mind, and I think it's applicable in both European and African and also American and other countries. From that point of view, it's applicable to those countries. One is there's an increased demand for flexibility, flexible working hours, and that also can go some way to improving a work-life balance. Also, there is there's often what I've observed is a lot of organizations are either doing pay adjustments in the form of ongoing salary increases or one-off lump sum payments that are being made to counter the sudden spike in inflation that we see across not just the Netherlands, but many other countries around the world. The question is currently, how do we deal with those, and how do we deal with any sudden spikes that might happen in the future? All forecasts generally tend to be that the CPI and inflation figures will drop towards the middle of or the end part of this year and to sort of basically return to normal in 2023. But those are probably the two biggest things that jump to my mind when I think about that question.
Thank you very much. That's really interesting. And I think really that brings me to my second question around hybrid working arrangements and potentially, how is working from home affecting how we remunerate effectively or how we remunerate equitably?
One of the challenges that managers have that I'm aware of is, although there's increased drive to work from home and just off the back of having had 2 years of COVID, there can also be a challenge of having line of sight into what high performers might be doing, and even by the same token, what poor performers might be doing. It's obviously become a bit more focused on what an employee can deliver, but how you then reward and treat that employee, it's difficult to say to take a circumspect view of all that went into that output. One of the other things that can affect it or can have an effect on that is reduced working hours, which are fairly commonplace in a lot of countries in Europe, can also mean that candidates develop slightly slower than they would before, even though their pay is prorated. Employees can have a better work-life balance, but it can take them longer to develop in their own careers. So it's just about keeping that sort of thing in mind. And I think the third thing to add to that is that work from home allowances are finding more acceptance, because it's been proven, I think, that people can still remain effective while working from home. So it's taking those sort of things into account. Often there's an increased need for additional insurance if an employee is working in a country that they don't live in, but might be based in for some amount of time. So it's all these things from a global mobility perspective also keep into account.
Absolutely fascinating. We are doing some key research on emerging hybrid working models, and I think to your point, there are major question marks around how we continue to reward effectively and how we reward equitably, and very importantly, how we measure performance and ensure that our remuneration reflects the type of performance that we're trying to get from our people. So fascinating insights there. My last question for you is really around, where is the practice of reward and remuneration as an industry headed in your view? What does the future look like?
Well, I think we're going to see the rather sharp rise of a combination of using AI in data analytics for HR specifically, as well as hand in hand with that is the rise of big data thinking for HR data, because there's a huge amount of data, and I think that it is often the amount of data and the value that the data can add is often underestimated until it can be, until we can apply big data thinking to it, and it suddenly starts becoming very, very insightful and very useful. And that also goes to include things like incorporating pay data. So a lot of organizations are starting to, with their annual increase cycles, compare the salaries that they're wanting to propose to market data as almost like a live feed. And the other thing is, I think the future is definitely looking more towards individualized, flexible working plans that are more tailored to an employee specifically, that sort of meets their needs, rather than having one blanket approach and way of bringing people into the business and keeping them in the business. Because ultimately, in the attraction and retention game, I think compensation is a large part of it. It's not everything, but certainly plays a large part of it. And having those insights is invaluable.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Levon, I'd like to thank you very much for taking time out of your day to speak to us. Folks, we'd love to engage with you over LinkedIn. We will be posting this video to LinkedIn. Feel free to engage with us. Any questions you might have, please pop them onto the LinkedIn post, and we look forward to engaging with you then. Thank you and have a good afternoon.